夏季赛暂时的表现不是特别好，然后跟队友的磨合现在也没有达到以前那种很巅峰的境界吧。我觉得斯威夫特是个就是控图性比较强的吧，然后也有 carry 能力的。如果要以 carry 对 carry 的话，我觉得我自己挺有信心的。
Just like that, Condi sharing his thoughts on Swift being a strong jungler. Well, he did steal the Baron. That got Vici back into the game in game one. Wasn't exactly through ganking, but that farm style and the eventual payoff of the Q secure on that Nidalee, Q smite, to lock it down from the son of Baron himself.
We'll check that off the list.
Yeah.
Something I've done while I was in China is that, I stole Baron from the son of Baron himself.
Yeah. It's no big deal.
There we go. So I like the Nidalee performance. It makes sense that he blind picked it early on. A lot of it comes down to, you're right, he wants to find, track down. You made a mention of controlling the map. So what he tried to do. I think Condi early on did a good job of hiding, masking his place on the map so he didn't have to deal with the Nidalee constantly at his face. So
and
good,
of course,
good from both junglers.
Yeah, by masking his play like that, he was able to buy enough time for Coco and Martin to step up and scale into the late games. Massive 6-item Rise, 6-item Ezreal, who then put out some huge damage in that team fight. As you can see, Mystic shaking hands with Missing there as he gets ready for this next matchup. I mean, he put out a strong performance as well, but again, we didn't see WE close out the game. They had that mid-game advantage. They had the tempo and control. They just couldn't quite do it.
And always, I'm just gonna be blunt, it always sucks losing a Baron fight like that. Every single time, it feels like you've done everything that you've worked hard in week after week in scrims to that moment, and then you're like, wait a minute, we just didn't execute around our Baron play. And so it feels rough when it looks like a 50-50. And for WE, they're a team that I guess they found a lot of 50-50 plays, so I think this is a good time to just kind of grow around that so it doesn't have to be that way. Good example is RNG. RNG doesn't take 50-50s. They try and fight around the pit. They make it so the Baron itself is the bait. Not going that low and turning and making it burn Baron 50-50. Condi either gets it or he doesn't. That shouldn't be what it is, and it was successful in the past, but it should stop.
If it's a strategy that worked for BLG for so long,
it's not working now.
Well, no, I think that's why we see BLG trying something a little bit new.
Yep.
Because we're adapting to the mid-jungle meta, though we are starting to see a bit of a transition back into late-game team fights as people are becoming more and more comfortable scaling and playing the longer game, despite the riskiness of playing into bruisers or mages.
And remember, the patches are coming through, Storm Razor's getting better. It really feels like
better, yeah.
And for 80 carries, feels like you can play bottom lane a little bit more confidently. They feel a lot better than they did in the past. So you can still play mages. I think Orianna is a great pickup. You can have a push potential, but in this case, you can, for the composition, play your 80 carries.
Which is so funny that we're seeing more and more power getting pushed back towards 80 carries to make to compensate for their weaknesses that they had early on in the split. When you look at the top of the standings, the best 80 carries are still playing 80 carries, and now 80 carries are getting stronger. So perhaps encouraging that division between top-level 80 carry marksman play and the bottom level of marksman play.
Reminds me of Team Liquid, to put it blunt. A team that goes back to their own region, realize that we just have our best 80 carry on our team. Why would we change our style if it's working for us? It may not be optimal in the meta, but it's optimal for us. So for them, still finding success. And now in the region, as you mentioned, the top 4 teams, why not much to change?
Yeah, exactly. Well, WE, they might need to look for a change in this one as they are no longer a top 4 team. They were our Rift Rivals representative last year. They went very far in Worlds, but this time around, after winning that split in 2017, now they find themselves on the back foot and not really seeing a lot of success. Will it be off of Mystic being the carry as we hypothesized pre-game 1? Will it be Xie getting his chance to play his own carry, though he did have a spectacular performance in that game 1 as well? Or will Vici be able to pick them apart once again? Turn things around with a massive hero play from Swift as Vici find themselves on blue side and set up to take WE down.
And it could just set them up for a Rakan first pick for Sintai. He found comfort in the last game and can go towards a Zaya if they are given that in the next phase. So for Vici, a lot of comfort here being on blue side. They can immediately pick up once again, another Nidalee pick. So for Vici, not much to change here if they are coming into the second game.
We'll see what WE's answer is. Maybe they want to try to counterpick that Xayah away, but pairing the Xayah all alone without the Rakan, not quite as powerful, though we do see a Morgana as a strong setup for that. Spell Shield could go to Missing. We just saw him play that Leona. Of course, Mystic could also play it as a mage.
This is a good challenge to Vici. They're saying you can pick up your Xayah. We have 2 picks that have worked well up against it. So Morgana is the classic. You can go towards a Varus or a Caitlyn. So anything that has the push potential, trade, range against Xayah is something that will succeed. So I wonder if Vici goes towards the Xayah or go back towards the Ezreal.
And again, we've already mentioned that Martin is the team fight AD carry, not exactly known for being the lane phase AD carry, as he did lose his bottom tier 1 turret pre-10 minutes just to the laning pressure of Mystic and Missing. So saving that lane
in there too
could certainly help. Yeah, we did see Condi roam down eventually, as once again Coco picks himself up that rise. So late game insurance and some scaling, as Coco's just having himself a chuckle as he looks at the Thunder Bear, but swaps it over to that Trundle to pick away from Condi.
Trundle would be difficult in this case. It works alright with the composition so they can play it slowly, and it would buff up an Ezreal if they end up picking it for themselves. But remember that they're going up against a Morgana and Kindred. So not a lot of tank stats from WE. Perhaps 957 will end up picking up an Ornn for himself, but till then, right now, you just have to assume that Swift gets nothing off his ulti.
That Subjugate not going to be providing a lot of stats unless there's a tank to pull them from, and Vici get the chance to ban away some more of those tanks from 957, so perhaps the Subjugate could be used to further subjugate squishy targets like a Zoe. As the Xayah is banned away by WE, let's see what Vici decide to target, if they set up for Audi on the top half of the map, or if they set up for Martin on the bottom half, as Vici ban away Ezreal.
An Ezreal ban from Vici, so they're recognizing that with the composition WE have, they can go for an Ornn, Ezreal, and the Zoe that they already have picked for themselves to get a really strong poke comp. So that is a good call out that Martin might find his old go-to champion of either the Tristana or Kog'Maw. That he's comfortable picking the other picks here, so especially in a game 2 when they already have that buffer going to game 3, expect a different pick from Martin.
And absolutely, in his first game back, getting MVP against Team WE, who are currently at 2-10 in the standings, Vici could finally look to starting to claim some momentum for themselves if they manage to close this series out in Xi'an.
Just remember, this is the assumption, thank God. I was about to say it's the assumption that Varus doesn't get picked up by Mystic, so both poke champions gone here. It's going to be up to Mystic to change things up.
Let's see if they save counterpick for 957 or for Mystic in the bottom lane. It already paid off in that game 1 by giving him that counterpick, as Yasuo is being looked at from Mystic.
I would expect a Tristana. You might go towards a mage, but if he has a mage, then it would all be on the Kindred to output the AD.
And as the timer runs out, decides to follow up with the magic damage dealing Swain. And Martin gets the chance to look for a counterpick on that opposite side. Sivir is a great answer. Ricochet and Boomerang Blade able to clear the wave from a distance without having to get close to that Never Move or Death's Hand.
Yep, Never Move. Also remember that this is a Morgana lane, a lot of poke and pick potential coming down here, so it's essentially a kill lane from WE. A Sivir would be a safe pick, pointing at it saying, alright, just lock it in, buddy.
Now we get to see the blind pick for Audi on that top lane. Again, his Darius has been banned away. He played the Jarvan to great success, but there's already plenty of engage with the Thrill of the Hunt. You've got the Trundle Pillar of Filth to slow people down, of course. Once again, that Rakan, as actually, we could see something else. The Aurelia being hovered, perhaps the Rise going to Audi instead, but as the timer runs down, finds himself looking through the beady little eyes of Ornn.
They just look at the composition that they've had. It would be very risky for Audi to pick a carry champion when they don't know what 957 is picking up here. The problems of having a top lane in a blue side draft here. So for Vici, this is a very strong front line from the Trundle and Ornn. Once again, double pillar. And they can start walking forward with the Sivir pick.
Now look at that. The Swain flexed into top lane as Mystic takes the Kaisa into Sivir Rakan. Still not exactly the huge early game threat, but still lots of damage if he manages to get the full Acathian Rain. as our compositions are locked in, WE round things out. Not really a frontline tank, but they do have a good Swain who can sit and soak some damage.
Upfront percentage damage has been teams' go-to up against the Sivir in the past, so usually in the LPL, it's the Vayne versus Sivir that people want to get out here, and the side lane pickup. So this case, a purple Vayne, if you will. Put him in the side lane if you can, and you can chase down Martin in those situations. Martin doesn't want to deal with that, so putting him with the team, more grouping from Vici, but on the side of WE, they just want to find themselves in side lanes and having themselves empowering their carries.
And that is the big answer for Team WE. Again, empowering their carries, and more importantly, fixing up the mistake of that previous game, not getting caught out of position in order to empower those carries. As the front line was caught in that last team fight from Vici, WE were finally able to lunge forward and claim control of the map by taking down the inhibitor 40 minutes in, but it was Vici's quick response to pounce on Condi, getting split from his team, punishing him with that kill and chasing down the remaining ace onto Team WE as they decided to take a bad fight. This time they'll have to take that lesson to heart if they want to even up this series and bring it to a Game 3 in front of the hometown crowd, as this is 7th place versus 7th place between 24 matches that these two teams have played. There has been a grand total of 3 victories, a 12.5% win rate amongst the two.
Boost the morale if you can win this one, especially for Team WE within Xi'an. Handful of times where they were able to bow in front of their own fans, so if they can do it here today versus Vici, be fantastic.
Once they have gotten to bow in front of their own fans.
That's true.
Feels bad for Team WE, as you can see that massive arena. That said, we've loaded onto the Rift. Let's hear it from the fans once again as Team WE challenge Vici. Now that's just mean. Beating the drum before Vici gets the chance to do their team chant? It's blue side, red side. It's always been blue side, red side.
Not in Xi'an. The drums always
not
go
in
first.
Beijing either. The RNG team doesn't really care too much about which team is on blue side. They just start yelling.
There we go.
Uh-oh. Swift walks up. Already Condi will be looking for that first mark as he gets a ward into the pixel brush, but looks to start off with a red camp without a leash.
Should be fine on that front. One thing that I'm going to be pointing out is press the attack for Kaisa, expected. For Martin, though, haven't seen a lot of Sivir, so not going lethal tempo. Remember, with lethal tempo, if you use your ricochet, you can actually get the added attack speed based off that, but going towards a more sustained heavy build on this one, so makes sense in this case. That just means that he doesn't want to deal with Mystic and missing a lot more damage on that end.
Something that absolutely makes sense considering the consistent harass that will be coming out of the Acathian Rain and Tormented Soil. As Missing walks up, he already shows that he's got the Tormented Soil. Condi leaps into the river and has been spotted out by a nice defensive ward placed by Vici, and is trying to steal away the the blue buff of Swift. He's still got that smite up as well, and Swift is on the way.
No Orin here, so it's just going to be a 1v1.
Blast going over the wall, and Condi is forced to back away as the blue buff goes low. Condi's still sitting there with the smite. Shia gets in, but Swift is able to secure it.
A lot of confidence from Swift. Remember, he has to execute from Chomp and then smite. Nothing of the sort for Condi, so he was coming out of a deficit the moment he was challenged by Swift.
Not to mention that Scuttle Crab was a marked crab for Condi, so he's still going to stay into the river. You can see Shie is hovering towards that side to set that Kindred up, just in case Swift wanted to step out, or Audi wanted to step out of that top lane. So that is the first mark, going to Team WE, though the invade is unsuccessful at stealing the blue, and that will slow the Kindred down just a little bit. But again, that means that the bottom lane just gets to be a little bit safer.
They're about to meet here, actually.
Yeah. Uh-oh, Swift. Boom, boom. Killer Chomp plus another auto attack. Look at the damage he's doing on top of that ground, and boom! First blood from Swift as he chomps down onto Condi. I wasn't even expecting that damage.
He expected his demise. Both of them have pressed the attack, and that's the issue. For Trundle versus anybody, if he can get the jump on you, then you lose AD in this situation. He gains a lot of damage off that front as well. So Trundle just wins out in a lot of trades if he gets on top of you first, and that was what happened. Condi accepted it. and he ended up not using his flash because that would have been a waste.
That frozen domain so strong for Swift. Here we get to see it again. I'm not going to make the sound effect again.
So he met him in the bush. He knew that he was going to be pathing towards the bottom side because he had already recognized Kandi started top side. Easy for Swift.
That's a juicy hit. It's Kandi. Now makes his way back into the jungle. Luckily, Swift didn't steal away any camps, but already setting things up to a good start. You can see Martin is trying to control the wave down bottom.
The visible deficit from that happening, though, is the fact that boots being purchased by Kandi means he won't get his red smite early in this game. Swift will go back, will either have his Tiamat or his red smite being picked up. So that just means that if Swift ever finds the same situation, easy for him to get a skirmish once again. Kandi is going to be on the back foot.
Kandi does not want that to happen. He's already farming up as quick as he can. But you can see 957 happily trading off with Audi, burning through that mana in the top lane as he goes even in CS so far. But still, we're looking to see how these junglers interact with those lane matchups that seem to be fairly close to even, though Mystic and Missing are doing a good job of constantly pushing in bottom to try and keep that Sivir locked down before she gets too much mana regen.
Just another situation where Vici are trying to slow the game down. Unless if Kandi finds another TP flank. It'll be interesting to see what he finds. But he wants to slow the game down while WE want to play around Kandi a little bit, which hurts a little bit more because of what happened earlier on this game, losing that early death. So he wants to try and empower CA, get the control wards down. He has a control ward in his pocket, so if it's going to be around mid, that would be the great first step for him.
Places it down into the Pixel Brush to help protect Coco from any potential Kindred roam. Swift is actually roaming top right now. Walks right up behind 957. That's the pillar, but it's a double knockup ready for Audi as he passed a path around both pillars from Swift and Audi. Volcanic Rupture and that Pillar of Frost. Do we still call it the Pillar of Filth when it's on the classic Trundle skin?
Yep, people say Pillar of Filth. I accept it. You can change the names depending on if it's original Trundle or not.
Yeah.
Because it's not icy, that makes no sense.
Yeah, you
So
don't call it the Pillar of Frost.
Yep.
Wait, do you still call it the Frozen Domain then when he activates the AoE? Or is that like a Toxic Domain?
I just call it Frozen Domain no matter what. So it's just because I don't know what the last one is called.
Toxic Domain, aka Solo Q.
There we go.
957 is pushing this wave up. Kandi looking for a counter gank. I believe Swift and Kandi did spot each other as they tried to path into the river. They're just hovering around right now. But Kandi's going to try to walk up and fight over this Scuttle Crab. Audi took control of the lane. Swift, I believe level 4 versus level 4 Smite. That did go to Swift as he gets marked by that mounting dread. Has to path out of this. 957 is trying to chase, never move, will catch. Ravenous Lock pulls it back in. A late flash from Swift as he gets out, but Audi, he already used his Call of the Forge God. He's investing so much to protect his jungler. Demonic Ascension, 957 doesn't go over the wall. It's Shie who does instead. You get a bird, and you get a bird, and you get a bird.
They almost all got birds.
They did, almost.
Almost. They almost covered the field with it.
I'd like you all to check under your seat right now because you get a new Ravenous Flock.
Only one of them.
Only one, yes.
That being said, I just like the fact that Kandi, even with the early deficit, he's like, I can challenge you. I see the pillar on the ground. You're not going to touch me with that. So he's never been an opportunity for Swift to actually land any bit of damage on the Kindred. Kindred is super mobile. So that being said, Swift was like, I'm going to get out of here. And hopefully my team helped. One by one streaming in. The only loss off that was the flash being had by Vici and Audi. So no flash on Audi on that one.
And of course, Swift also using his own flash to try and escape. But still, that does mean the bottom lane is completely on an island. It's called from both of our AD carries. Mystic going for the BF sword first as he looks to be building towards that AD carry style Kai'Sa right now. There's a bunch of different builds. I'm actually pretty excited to see what he decides to build on that. AP has sort of fallen a bit to the wayside. Guinsoo's is still a very powerful item on Kai'Sa, but it opens up a lot of variability in which way you decide to go for. But then again, there's Storm Razors, which is so good.
So for Kai'Sa, a lot of people just go Storm Razors, Guinsoo's, because you get the early 1-2 on his Q and his E. So at that point, you just get so much, it's a massive spike for you. And then they go straight in towards AP afterwards. Nashor's Tooth, Rabadon's Death Cap to unlock your W off that. So it's really quick. They play around unlocking and evolving all three. I love the evolution of Kai'Sa in that front because people are like, you don't need to evolve W. All AD. You don't need to evolve his E. That would be like, or Q that is. Just all AP.
Yeah.
And so you just see a lot of variations. Now you can get all three. And so
it's
jumping at it.
Very expressive of player choice of the style that they want to deal. Is it going to be landing massive plasma chunks off of getting 5 hits from the Guinsoo's AP, or is it going to be upfront crits from the auto attacks? And that speaks a lot to the playstyle of how people expect to play that Kai'Sa around in these team fights. Of course, we still haven't seen too much action outside of that early skirmishing for Vision, but Swift might try to upset that as whoop! He decides to back out into his own jungle and look for yet another Scuttle Crab. Just keeping track, I believe that one is marked. It is. So again, Condi is being absolutely denied every single Scuttle Crab. Swift is so on top of this Kindred right now.
It would have been third one for Condi. They'd have only gone for it.
If you had been able to get any of the others.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Bit of a tragedy to see that happen, but Swift, he's looking to step up. That's one pillar for the knockup. 957 with no flash. That's the demonic ascension. You get a bird, but there's the call of the Forge God. Swift finds the kill. Condi steps up and steps out.
Yeah, late to the party. He's not going to be able to help out in that front. So easy gank for Audi and Swift. You like to see it happen. 2 kills really early on for Swift. So I wonder if he just goes for a tier mat really early on. Now he's just going straight down the tanky route. It's like, I know my role. I'm not going to go towards damage. I haven't seen that before from Swift.
Purely playing the supportive style jungler, and again, this is where we speak to the experience of Swift. Joining the LPL in 2015 with the Chaoku Reapers, he was all about the aggression, all about the snowball, but this time he's playing a supportive role. Though he does have the 2 kills, he's still got a bit of the bloodlust.
Yeah, and I mean, like, he understands that helping out the rest of his teammates gets him the benefits. That's a lesson he's learned throughout his tenure in the LPL. That's the result of it.
Uh-oh. Xie gets caught by the pillar. That's a cleanse, flashes over the wall, and still Swift is just controlling the river. Condi can barely step out of his own jungle, let alone any of the laners push past that river.
And that's good information they now have. Xie using both of his summoners, easy to now work around Coco and getting a gank here. So you would expect now, make an entrance back mid lane with your Trundle pillar. You have Coco who can flash up, Rune Prison, easy gank there. Xie has to be respectful now.
WE are just getting absolutely stymied across the jungle in the top half of the map, now even opening up an advantage in the mid lane as Swift is following up onto the bottom lane. Missing is going to walk into the river and place a ward that does not spot Swift, though he does get a chance to see that ward just outside of that maximum vision range. So he knows now that this is warded, and Shintai's just going to walk up and clear the damn thing. He's got that control ward. No, he's actually not clearing it, still sitting on that control ward. Might wait for Swift to clear out some more camps before recalling and doing the same himself. But poor Condi, poor guy has not gotten a single mark. She is finally getting some push pressure to step into the river and contest this, and luckily for him, Swift is on the other side of the map.
And luckily. Didn't he get a mark at top side in the really early on portion?
I'm pretty sure Swift was secured it.
Yeah,
I could be wrong.
The
Next time we
challenge,
see Condi,
yes,
we'll
the
take a look.
challenge secure, yes. But going back to this, he is having a tough time no matter what.
Yeah. No matter what.
No matter what. So he actually went towards attack speed early on, Razor, so he doesn't have the Warriors enchant. Surprising to see. It's better scaling as the game goes on once you get the Black Cleaver, a little bit more on crit. That's going to take some time when he was already in a deficit for Condi.
Now they're turning onto the Rift Herald right now. Missing has been pulled up from the bottom lane while that Kai'Sa heads back bottom. Mystic is going to try to deal with this, but Vici are grouped up as 3. Visions of Empire spots this. WE grouped up as 4. They turn onto the Rift Herald. CP Trouble Bubble will be smoked, but the flash engage as Shintai goes in. Condi goes low, lands Respite, stalls it out. Condi flashes away, heals up, but Swift follows for another one. He just needs one more auto, Realm Warp for the chase, and he locks down the kill. Still, they chase it further on to 957. He drops himself the Demon Flare to follow it up as 5 members of Vici collapse and Raz. It is 5-0 as WE are falling apart.
Such confidence in the lineup. Walking in, even with the Swain ulti coming up, they're like, that's only 1 soul fragment. You're going to be doing no damage to me. So ends up chasing WE down so early on and can now just secure the Rift Herald.
Things looking real dangerous for Team WE as Vici are accelerating this early game off of Swift, controlling the jungle and setting up his lanes for success in such a dominant fashion. This is entirely unexpected from Condi, the son of Baron himself. Just getting positively outplayed.
It's a good jungle matchup. So even out of the team standings that you look towards, both teams not performing well, if you look at just the raw talent of Condi versus Swift, you have to respect both of them. And so easy advantage for Swift. decisive being called here in the fight. Martin really well played in getting the missing kill. That's something we actually couldn't catch because they chased down Xie and made it easy to just route him out. So from Vici, super dominant fight that they can follow up through based off Sivir ulti and the Rakan ult.
And I love how all of the kills ended up onto Swift. 4-0 and 0 right now. He's very accelerated on that Trundle. But he is, like you said, building towards the tank style. So perhaps that's at least a bit of a consolation prize to Team WE. And
I would say that he can like essentially face check any bush, or at least he can look for dives at this point. So for him, bottom lane is going to be interesting just because BF Sword being added onto the Essence Reaper of Martin. So play around your dual lane. You can get a lot more ganks. Or dives allowing a Sintai. So that being said.
So you are correct. Condi is sitting on 2 stacks. And I don't think that Scuttle Crab was marked. So he is sitting on those 2 stacks. So he hasn't been completely shut down. Just very, very slowed down. I'm sure right now W are saying, damn it, Condi.
Yeah, he's not having a good time.
He's really not having a great time.
And he made it even longer going for the Blood Razors early. So once he gets to his 3rd item, then he's going to be pumping out a lot of damage into the front line. So Swift and Audi are going to have to respect that. But with how fast this game's accelerating, you don't have the free stats of what the Warriors enchant will give you. So that's what I'm worried about with Gandhi.
And this, I suppose, is the big question for Team WE. They need something to bridge them to that late game, because right now they've got a Kai'Sa, they've got themselves the Kindred who's built Devourers and is ready to take those late game team fights. But what's going to get them to that stage? Okay, because right now Vici are trying to accelerate the pace of the game with this Rift Herald used mid and the bottom tier 1 being taken. It's 2 turrets to 1 and very well could be 3, as that's a big charge. And the mid-tier 1 goes down.
And they should challenge it, or at least push it towards the 2nd tower. It looks like they're going to leave it alone. But to answer your question, I would say 957 is your key to unlocking. He has a Rabadon, or he's Rod of Ages. He roams with the team, pick potential with his E. That's what I want to see from them, because they can pick out individuals of Coco and Sintai. They've done it in the previous game. So they should try and use that option. Get him out of the side lane for that.
That's so difficult when you've got a Sivir constantly pushing in, Ryze pushing in on the other side of the map. Let's see if Vici do decide to effect a 1-3-1 with Audi and Coco once again, keeping Martin in the mid lane. That should enable Swift to pretty freely invade and take whatever he wants. But right now, the game is starting to accelerate away from Team WE. It's only 2,500 gold, and it has to be said, Vici, when they play their best, and this goes without saying, it's when they have control of the map, when they are able to set the tempo and set the pace, when they are the proactive players. That is when they are their deadliest. They don't have to worry about playing from behind in this game. And that means that WE find themselves scrambling to cover the map.
So what does that look like? Because for me, the way I would put it for Vici, when they have a lead, they're bloodthirsty. They will look for kills repeatedly, and that's been the Swift style of play. So for Swift, when he has this lead, it's how do we set up for the next fight rather than, okay, let's push out these waves and look around for these
control, neutral objectives.
It's not his style.
Yeah.
So for Vici, they're probably looking to find the next objective to play around and force a fight rather than play around and utilize a Baron that's coming up in a few more minutes to just decide the game.
And it looks like that's what we're seeing on the bottom half of the map right now. Coco pushes a large wave into the tier 2. 957 is the only one trying to defend it, like you said, on the hunt used by Sintai, and they turn onto the tier 2 turret and break it down, trading their top tier 1, but it's still 4 turrets to 2, and Vici's map is getting bigger, while WE's is getting smaller.
They have Audi. I think they should just set Audi in the bottom side of the map. So that's going to be important. They don't have double TP this time around. Coco, of course, going towards the cleanse this game. So you don't have the constant pressure of having double side lane pressure. So you have to have Coco with you. I think what's going to be a great key is using his ultimate to try and rush a Baron in that instance. So there's a lot of ways you can use this composition.
Taking a look at the gold, it's still fairly close to even. 200 gold between the supports, another 600 between the AD carries, close to even in that mid lane, only 200 difference. In the jungle, it is only 1,600 for Swift, and in the top lane, it's another 1,000 in favor of Audi. So still fairly close to even in gold when you, all things considered. 4 turrets to 2, so there is still some gold for WE on the map if they're ever able to lunge back and take control. But with these waves pushing in, that means that they have to expend that much more gold on Vision to try and contest Vici, especially now that we're getting close to the Baron spawning. And Vici, we can't imagine they'll sit idly by while that neutral objective is about to pop onto the map. And there's the swap you were talking about. Audi heads bottom with teleport to keep 957 busy, and Coco heads top to get ready for that next big pick or objective.
Yeah, full focus here. I want to see what Martin end up picking up, because that's going to be the key to this fight. He has double BF sword, so that should be an Infinity Edge, which is a weird... Thank you.
Zerker's Greaves.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Because he can't just go IE. The only reason why he would just lock in the IE is so he has the full 80 AD. But then obviously the rest of the passive, which is the main bulk of true gold damage, is just based off of your crit that you won't be able to double because you have no crit.
And all he's got is the Brawler's Glove. That's it.
So I think as long as he expands that, gets his first attack speed item, then gets towards his Infinity Edge, then that's fine. I'm happy with it.
Still going to take some time to finish that off as he does need those crit items to start scaling up as Audi walks up, happily trying to trade with 957 and keep him busy. But now that Sivir taking control over the mid lane, Essence Reaver pushing in wave after wave as Coco has pushed all the way up to the top lane. Now Condi is on this side of the map and the Ocean Dragon is going to spawn in 30 seconds. We have already taken the first, but that means the Baron side of the map is largely undefended, but for Mystic and Missing, trying to hold that turret. So with this, we're seeing Mystic go for the Storm Razors first. Looks like Gwinsu's second. This blue buff gets passed over to Xie. He's got his own Ludens. WE, they are trying to defend for what they know will be an inevitable fight set up from Vici.
Yep.
But it looks like Vici, they're just taking neutral objectives right now, playing the map nice and slow, taking this Ocean Dragon as it spawns to match the one that WE already have.
And that's what's unexpected for WE, because you can already see all of them basing, getting down the control wards that they have not needed here, are already moving towards the red side of the jungle, and they're like, well, I guess we lost an Ocean Dragon. Should we feel happy about this? And so, to answer that question, depends if Vici can close, because Baron is an inevitability. That's what WE cares about the most, and how you can dangle that over WE to fight is what will win this game for you.
I mean, we've already seen one Baron steal this series, with Swift stealing it away from WE. Maybe Condi, son of Baron, maybe that's his native element. He has to be stealing the Baron to feel more comfortable with it.
Hey, I mean, he's on Kindred. He can deny it.
Yeah,
you can press ulti on top of it if he jumps
respite.
in. So that's an option. Putting that out there, people.
Denying the smite. It's so strong. We've already seen it, I think it was actually earlier this week.
Yep.
Was the Kindred ult onto Baron to deny the enemy smite and then wait for the duration to time out before smiting yourself. But still, that's a while away before we get to see that, as Gargoyle's Stone Plate second from Swift. Massive front line. The only thing that can really kill him right now would be that Kai'Sa, but she's busy killing Audi right now, as that's Call of the Forge God. Look at the plasma stacks. Teleport is canceled as Mystic finds himself a kill. WE get on the board.
Completely surprised from Vici. Vici, they were pinging on to Baron, but they realized that it was far too slow from them. Coco was way too far on the top side, that if they had converged, then it would have given WE the ample time to just group up and try and fight them in a 5v4 situation. So really unfortunate that Vici weren't in position at the time.
And that's exactly what we talk about with Audi, is his map presence. Not always the greatest, though his mechanics in team fighting has been slowly improving. Again, his mechanics are the primary reason you take him as a player.
In those situations, I think it's a mix of both. You're right. He has to look to his team and see where they're at in that position to decide to push up. So he can hide. But at the same time, if he's that far up, why is the team themselves not grouped up around Baron?
Exactly.
So it's definitely a push and pull, which comes down to a major point of communication. But if you're putting ownership on yourself, ownership that Audi can just look at the minimap, to your point, should definitely do that, and you wouldn't be pushing up that heavily.
Again, that being said, there aren't very many wards from Vici on that side of the map, because as you said, the Baron is up. That's where Vici have their attentions. They're trying to step in and try to control this pit and deny the vision of Team WE, though we do see a couple of nice defensive wards, even a blue trinket being used, two blue trinkets out of Vici to control the pit over here, but that means that mid is temporarily undefended. There's the Acadian Rain and Visions of Empire. And that buys enough time for Mystic to step up and clear out that minion wave. So finally, the defense comes across from WE, though this Sivir is going to be a constant threat.
Yeah, it will be. I wonder if this this push on tower will work. Oh.
Killer Instinct is ready for Mystic, but he decides not to take the all-in.
Just great poke, so they can now gain position around Baron. So good, patient play from WE. And this was just Vici trying to look for a mid lane inner tower when you know what terrain is there. That's actually really difficult to take. So, I mean, you can already see that Vici are not confident playing around Baron and forcing WE to play their game.
And just like that, with the harass onto Shintai, the cleanse being burned, WE get a chance to step back into the river, reset their vision, reset their wards, and that means that Vici are forced to fall back, though we do see On the Hut being used to bring this minion wave in. Mystic did just complete a recall. He's only now making his way back out with the Zeal as Kandi tries to step up from the side. Sleepy Trouble Bubble, but the turret's already down. Coco in the front forces the Lamb's Respite. They manage to get the chase down onto Kandi, who doesn't even get to use his Gargoyle Stoneplate. Mystic is thinking about using the Killer Instinct. Already tried to chase once, flashing over the side as the bubble will miss. And WE gets the chance now to push back.
Great counterattack. Of course, the time being spent on Kandi, keeping himself alive with Lamb's Respite. So for Vici Gaming, it was all on how they can get out of that situation.
And WE turning on to the Baron. Teleport coming out from Audi to get himself back onto the field with full health. Baron is getting absolutely chunked down by that Kai'Sa. She does so much. Visions of Empire. Shintai looking to go in. There's no smite. Baron picked up by WE. Again, a KT and Rain. Audi using that Call of the Forge God to force the disengage as 957 lands and never move, and Coco will cleanse to back away from this. But WE, they weather the early game storm just like Vici did in game 1.
You can see what happens when teams that have that early lead don't know how to play around Baron. The team that had the lead ends up losing it 2 series in a row. Pretty sure Gold Lead's still in favor of Vici, but with the Baron being done in, WE will take control of the game once again. So really frustrating on the side of Vici that for so long they didn't know how to open the game, and so they just ham-fisted, just went straight mid, even used the attack speed of Sivir's ultimate to take down the inner tower because they didn't want to actually play around the Baron itself.
Yeah. And again, it seems very uncomfortable. A fistful of ham, not something you want to see on the Rift from Vici. As they do have that game 1 advantage, they just need to close this out, but perhaps that desperation could be something that hangs over their head like a veritable sword of Damocles, whereas WE, they are accustomed to this situation. Previously known as the late game team fight team, this is WE in their element as they take that Baron right down to the mid-tier 1. They're firing across with some harass as Coco tries to clear this wave out, but again, those Baron minions are so strong and it's just getting chunked down so quickly.
Just gotta wonder if this mid lane tower will be taken at any point. It really depends on 957's position once again. Pushed out bottom lane, so he can help out his team by coming in a flank position, sure. Seems like that might not be the case here because he has pings being placed on towards Audi, so he does want to match him.
And with Martin taking red buff and recalling, he will finish off his Infinity Edge, but that recall timing means the mid-tier 1 is undefended and finally goes down as Xie over the wall. Whoops. Shorts that one. But the next dragon is an Infernal. Looks like that's what's being started out by Kandi right now. Vici might be looking for a fight. They think they've got themselves a gold advantage, but it is 3 items to 3 items. Shintai takes a hit. Binding will miss as Martin fires out the Boomerang Blade, just skirmishing over vision.
So that's Static Shiv and Infinity Edge. So 60% crit here coming out of Martin. Should feel comfortable if he gets in range, but that's going to be a big if. Not a lot of ways to start the fight here, and so much just flying at him. Zoe is constantly in the back of his head.
That Ocean Dragon's so important, but there's the thrill of the hunt. Kandi separated from his team, flashes away, but eats a knock-up. Without that Lamb's Respite, that means the front line goes low. Mystic dives in, looking for Swift, but doesn't find him. Meanwhile, the knock-up seeks convergence. Mystic caught on the edge of the Respite is saved, only barely by Kandi. He stacks up and he chases it down as 4 members of Vici go in, and 5 members end up dying. Mystic even throws up the flag as 27 minutes in, that's WE with the ace.
Lost their minds, Vici. Don't know what happened with Martin. He flashed to the side, thinking he can get a kill, but the crits didn't come across. You shouldn't be relying on those crits. That's 60%. So Martin dies on the side when Swift had, what, 40% HP. Just a bad start to the fight that made it worse.
And 60% of the time, it works every time, but that's not it. It's the 40% this time. WE are turning onto the Nexus turrets themselves. Now, Shintai is back up. Kandi is chasing it down as the minion wave gets cleared out. Shintai tries to dodge with WE onto the Nexus. Swift steps forward. Shintai is dead. The Nexus goes down. WE even up the series.
Once again, the team with the lead loses the lead. What's happened in this series? I don't understand it, dog. I mean, Swift has to feel frustrated once again. This game, massive lead, 4 kills in his back pocket. But then as the game goes on, finds difficulty in getting an advantage, team advantage around the pit. And so he ends up being the first to die in these fights because he wants to walk forward. The rest of his team ain't backing him.
And that was Vici taking control, setting the pace, but throwing at a handful of team fights, and WE happy to receive, pick up the game as it gets chucked their way, and they're able to chase these team fights back. And again, WE stalling it out, slowing that game down to the point where their late game composition comes online. The Kindred, Kaisa, Swain, and look at the damage that Mystic did.
Yeah, a sharp spike as you can see in the goal graph, and the Mystic finds an opportunity to just jump in. Been having a good game thus far, having a good series really. So for Mystic, on that Kaisa, you might want to put him on that again because he recognized and played these team fights so much better than Martin did under the pressure situation that it was in.
And Mystic keeping his cool over the course of those fights, absolutely relying on the huge Kaisa damage spike of 2 and 3 items to get the massive plasma procs. Was able to come up with that massive setup. But again, this is WE going back to the team fight style that they used to be known for. Again, in early 2017 and even 2016 when this roster really started to come together, that was the style that defined them. The 35-minute, we called them the Elder Dragon team for taking fights at 35 minutes. They're comfortable playing from behind. This is a team that is good at elegantly losing in that if they fall behind, they don't just haphazardly give up turrets. They only give things up when they absolutely have to, and they're able to stall that out so that late game carries can come online. Vici didn't quite seem to be able to figure out how to break that shell apart.
Yeah, I think that a lot of that came down to their own deficiencies in that front, walking around the pit, not knowing how to set up when they had a recon enabled. Like that was a clear engage point that they can utilize, even if it means that, you know, have the recon loop around the red side jungle. This is the same thing, same criticism of WE in game 1. So I think both these teams are getting into a trap when they have these leads. They don't know how to fully press them. So they feel pressed in these situations to do more with it. So mid lane tower in this situation was the go-to, and it allowed the poke heavy team. I think even though Mystic did a lot of the damage, the setup was there from Xie off the Zoe pick. So Zoe gets a lot of Sleepy Trouble Bubbles, and the main reason that Vici was losing because they were losing a lot of HP to start the fight, and so that was a major goal signal for the team.
Absolutely. Again, it all started off with that first blood that we saw out of Vici Gaming, however, and that was Swift controlling the early tempo of the game, just finding Condi by tracking him around. And I forget what sound effect that I made, but I'm fairly certain it was somewhere between a squeak and a yelp.
Yep.
At seeing how much damage Trundle does on that frozen domain.
I feel you.
That's so unexpected.
Look, it was unexpected in the sense that Condi didn't expect it.
Yeah.
And I didn't expect you squealing.
The classic face check around the corner.
Yep. And so that continued. That pressure continued from bot side, top side, even having Zoe flash out because when she was going bottom side river, found out she had to use both of her summoners. One thing I would say that, you know, no repeat gank mid lane when no summers was on for Zoe, so that's something that he'd look back on and say maybe I should press that a little bit more, help out Coco. But their early game was fine. In fact, Vici, massive thumbs up, big thumbs, that they had such a great early game and they were able to get a fight around the Rift Herald. And then from that point forward, they couldn't get that same fight, even with the Sivir, so you can technically run them down. This is when Sivir activated the ulti, was there with the team, along with the Xayah ulti, or at least the Recon ulti in this case, and then just chased down WE, scattered.
Splitting them up around that red pit, and like you said, picking off kill after kill. This is where we see it go to 5-0 for Vici. The big tragedy that you mentioned, though, Raz, is that, yes, they take the fight around the Rift Herald, they go to 5-0, but then they aren't able to do anything with it. They forced to use Sivir ultimates to break down tier 2 turrets. They're forced to try to use unconventional methods to pull WE apart, and that bought enough time for WE to scale up their carries.
And for WE, they started to get a whiff that they have a chance in the game. The moment the Ocean Dragon was picked off and WE starting to defend topside red side jungle. So they walked in red side jungle and they're like, I guess the enemy team took Ocean, but what does that matter? So they had full defense topside and can play around defending around mid lane inner tower, and the Baron that was an eventual, like, didn't really draw the ire of Vici. So that was kind of weird. I mean, for Vici, I don't know what the hell they were trying to do. They should just go and try and fight around Baron with how large of a lead they had and how big specifically that we saw from Swift that you can just be a little bit reckless, and we didn't get to see that from them.
From the other side, though, we did get to see WE play to their strengths with that late game team fight, that final fight in which they all in onto Vici Gaming, were able to pick them apart rather successfully. It's from Vici thinking they've split Condi off, but little do they know they get split.
Look at how much damage you end up taking from Trundle, and then Martin's response to that.
Whoa.
Swift's not going to be a part of that fight, so why is both Coco and Martin flashing in? Lamb's Respite's not going to help you out, of course. Helps out CA and Mystic, so they know where they can go back to if they're in dire straits. But I was like, that was just a weird fight. That's just comes down to split decision, I would say. Split second communication, or just having a good idea of where the fight's heading.
Exactly.
Because if Trundle's not going to be able to help out from that point forward, it may not make sense for you to jump in, especially if you see somebody and you're like, well, maybe we can pick them off before Kindred can jump in. Fair, but you don't have a reliable crit percentage to be able to rely on that. And so choose your fights better.
Yeah, and that was the attempt from Vici to try to do that. Did not succeed. Again, this is hopefully a lesson that we'll see them learn because they've still got a lot of time to try and do so. That being said, both of these teams have been eliminated from first place contention to chase it down. I do believe it's still getting fairly close.
That would be a hard venture.
I believe Vici has been eliminated from, let's see, 12 games. That means they're getting close to the final playoff spot. They're chasing down Suning, LGD, and BLG if Vici want to try to get in.
They're probably not
real
even
close.
They're probably not even thinking about that. They have one set victory.
Yeah.
While honestly, the chase is between fifth sets, or at least 5 wins and 6 wins. So if they want to find that anywhere near 4th place, that's a lot of victories when we're not even seeing them have clean games, let alone victories themselves. So,
yeah.
The first win that they got in Game 1 was something Vici should not have had. And in Game 2, obviously, perhaps they should have got it, but they lost control. And they're in an Eastern Conference where these are a lot of strong teams that you're vying to defeat.
Suning, LGD, BLG. And again, in order to chase that down, this, like you said, this is their last cross-conference game. Best case scenario, they go 8-11. That means that they win this game and then go 6-0 against IG, RNG, and JD.
Yep.
Which is real tough for Vici if they want to try to claim that
I'm going to say right now it's not going to happen.
It's an uphill battle. Mystic will take our MVP for that Game 1 performance on that Kai'Sa, as WE are trying to do the same thing. 5-0 and 300% kill participation. All he had to do was sit back and wait for the Daughter of the Void to chase down those kills.
Incredibly patient, waiting for those fights. And this is just, as you mentioned, really going into it, what Team WE's core identity. They've been wrestling with that in the spring split. Going to the summer split, you find Condi in the roster, and now it is just about team fighting for the team. So you can see Mystic come back incredibly strong. I don't want to see Gentle no more. Maybe we'll see Imp. I'm fine with that, but I think right now Mystic is performing so strongly that there's no reason to sub him out.
Well, we're going to find out whether or not that's the case as we take a quick break and get ready for game number 3. Don't go anywhere. The LPL is going to be right back.
过去的荣光就留在记忆中 ，WE 要追逐新的胜利。